That evening began with a strange mix of excitement and nervousness swirling in my chest. It wasn't just another birthday, it was my husband's 40th, a milestone that meant more than numbers or candles. He had always been the kind of man who never asked for anything. He gave, he worked, he loved quietly, and never once complained when life threw challenges at him. This year, I wanted to give him something that spoke beyond words, something that reminded him just how deeply he was loved, not just as a husband but as the heart of our home. I'd been planning the surprise for over a month. Every day after he left for work, I'd sneak into the spare room and add little touches to the gift. I wanted it to be something that carried memories, laughter, and warmth. I didn't want an expensive gadget or some fancy outing. I wanted to give him emotions, something that would stay forever. I'd even kept a small diary of moments we shared through the years, notes of his kindness, his patience, and the quiet sacrifices he made for our family. As the evening sun dipped behind the curtains, the house began to glow softly under the warm light of candles I'd placed around the living room. I cooked his favorite dinner, creamy pasta, roasted chicken, and that chocolate mousse he loved since our first date. Every detail mattered tonight. The kids were spending the night at my sister's place, so the house was ours, peaceful and full of gentle anticipation. When he walked through the door, I saw the surprise in his eyes instantly. He stopped, inhaled the aroma from the kitchen, and then looked at me with that same smile that first made me fall in love. "What's all this?" he asked softly, setting down his bag. I just smiled and said, "Happy birthday, my love. Tonight is yours." He laughed, still not knowing what awaited him, and wrapped his arms around me. It was that familiar warmth I'd missed on our busy days. We sat for dinner, laughing over small things, sharing stories from the past, and remembering the silly times when we first got married. He told me how nervous he was on our wedding day, and I told him how I had nearly burned the first meal I ever cooked for him. Those memories felt fresh again, like time had folded back to when everything was new and simple. After dinner, I guided him to the living room where I had placed a large wrapped box on the table. He raised an eyebrow, curious but smiling. "What is this?" he asked. I told him to open it slowly. Inside was a handcrafted scrapbook filled with letters, photos, and voice notes. Memories spanning over 15 years of our life together. Each page was decorated with dates, little quotes, and doodles from moments we'd shared. At the end of the scrapbook was a small envelope. He opened it carefully and found a letter written in my handwriting. It said, "You've given so much love without ever asking for anything in return. This is a small reminder that every smile in this home begins with you." When he looked up at me, his eyes were moist. He reached for my hand and whispered, "You have no idea how much this means to me." But that wasn't the only surprise. I handed him one more small box, a keychain with a small digital screen. When he turned it on, it played a short video I had made secretly. It showed clips from our life together, our wedding, the children growing up, the trips we took, and even the times when we simply sat on the couch holding hands after long days. The final frame of the video showed me saying, "My gift is a promise to keep making you feel this loved, every day, in every small way." He hugged me tight then, longer than usual, and I could feel his heartbeat slow and steady against mine. In that quiet moment, I realized something precious. Sometimes love doesn't need grand gestures or perfect timing. It just needs presence, honesty, and the courage to express gratitude. That night wasn't about celebration. It was about reflection, the kind that makes you realize how far you've come together. We spent the rest of the evening talking about dreams, fears, and plans for the years ahead. He told me he wanted to travel more, to live slower, to watch the sunsets without rushing for the next thing. I promised him that we'd do it, one sunset at a time. Before we went to bed, he whispered, "You've always given me strength, but tonight, you gave me peace." That line stayed with me. Love, I learned, isn't just about excitement, it's about peace, comfort, and quiet gratitude that grows deeper with time. Later that night, as I turned off the lights and looked at him sleeping peacefully beside me, I felt thankful. The world outside could be loud and uncertain, but in that room, love was steady, simple, and eternal. Days later, I noticed he carried the keychain everywhere. Sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, he'd play the video quietly and smile. That small act told me my surprise had touched something beyond words. It had reminded him that even after all these years, we still chose each other, every day. And that's what love truly is, a choice made again and again, even after the flowers fade, the candles melt, and the years pile up. Love is not in grand gifts but in small, consistent acts of care. As I shared this story with you all today, I hope it reminds you to celebrate not just birthdays or anniversaries, but moments. The way your loved one looks at you when you laugh, the quiet support they give when you're down, the warmth of a shared silence. Because sometimes, the most unexpected gift is not wrapped in paper. It's wrapped in effort, memory, and heart. And on that birthday night, as I saw my husband's eyes light up with tears of joy, I knew that love, when given purely, always finds its way back home. The morning after his birthday felt softer than usual. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, wrapping our room in a golden warmth. I woke up before him, quietly watching as he slept, peaceful, content, and smiling even in his dreams. There was something beautiful about seeing him like that, the man who had carried our family through thick and thin finally resting without worry. I went to the kitchen and brewed his favorite coffee, just the way he liked it, with a hint of cinnamon. When I returned, he was awake, looking at me with that same tender expression. "I don't know what I did to deserve you," he murmured. I smiled and said, "You loved me when I wasn't easy to love. That's enough." It was such a simple exchange, yet it carried the weight of everything we'd lived through. The highs, the lows, the unspoken promises that held us together. That day, we decided to take a spontaneous trip to the nearby lake, a place we hadn't visited since our early marriage. As we drove there, old songs played on the radio, songs that once defined our youth. We sang along, laughed at our own off-key voices, and remembered the small apartment we started in, where love was our only luxury. When we reached the lake, it looked just as it had years ago, calm, endless, and shimmering in the sun. We sat by the shore, our hands intertwined, saying nothing for a long time. The silence wasn't empty, it was filled with comfort, a language only old love understands. He turned to me and said, "You know, that video you made it reminded me that we've had a good life, even when it wasn't perfect." I nodded. "That's because we never stopped choosing each other." He smiled, and in that smile, I saw decades of devotion reflected back at me. In the weeks that followed, something changed between us. Not in the way that love began again, but in how it deepened. We started spending more time together, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. We cooked together, took evening walks, and sometimes just sat in the garden watching the stars emerge. He began keeping a small notebook of gratitude, writing one thing he appreciated about our life each day. One evening, he showed it to me. On the first page he had written, "Her kindness built my peace." My eyes filled with tears, realizing that the gift I'd planned for him had quietly turned into something that gave back to me too. It was as if love had grown roots even deeper than before, anchoring us in ways neither of us expected. Months later, on an ordinary evening, he came home holding a small package behind his back. "Now it's my turn," he said with a playful grin. I laughed, completely unprepared. Inside the box was a delicate silver pendant shaped like a key. Engraved on it were the words, "You unlocked my life." He told me, "Every day since that night, I've realized you are my greatest gift." I hugged him, unable to hold back tears. It wasn't about the pendant. It was about the thought, the emotion behind it. In that moment, I understood something profound. Love is a cycle of giving, not out of obligation but out of joy. It's in the way we see each other, even when the world grows noisy. Now, every year when his birthday comes around, we no longer chase grand plans or fancy dinners. We recreate that quiet evening together. Homemade dinner, candles louder, and gratitude. It has become our tradition, our sacred ritual of love. When we sometimes watch that old video again, our hair is grayer now, our faces marked by time, but our smiles are the same. He often says, "That night changed everything." And maybe it did. It reminded us that true romance doesn't fade, it matures. It learns patience, forgiveness, and gentleness. And when I look at him today, I know with all my heart that love, when nurtured with kindness, never gets old. It just becomes more real, more human, more divine.